Just a crash course on United Way, although most of you have heard me speak entirely too many times. We spend half of our resources funding 51 different programs that help, unfortunately in today's world, 1 out of every 2 people in the Grove Valley. We help with everything from prenatal care to bereavement counseling and a whole bunch of life that falls in between. The other half of our resources are spent on our community impact projects like the Southern Oregon Meth Project, the Child Abuse Network, Project Community Connect, and a variety of other community assistance programs, including Cash Southern Oregon, which is our program to help people file their income tax for free and receive eligible tax credits back. I feel like I should start with your story reminded me of a William Bennett quote from the early 80s when he refused to take the job as the Republican Party chair. And his quote was, "I refuse to take a vow of poverty." The salary in the early 80s for that job was $125,000 a year. So we also have to know that poverty is relative. And while it's relative in that case to the extreme, it's also relative at very other ends of the spectrum. We did a 1.5-year-long project on poverty, trying to break the cycle in partnership with On Track and Kids Unlimited and the Family Nurturing Center and La Clinica. And I think my largest lesson during that 1.5 years, and poverty is removed from my own personal experience, was the difference between being poor and being in poverty. And it was a huge learning for me. And for me, it's about poverty of spirit, and that there's a huge disconnect and a level of hopelessness is, for me, what drives people into poverty. I feel a little like I'm talking to the choir because I think most of this audience knows more about what I'm about to talk about than not. So I'll say that too. When you look at United Way's needs assessments over the last 40 years, the problems aren't different. The top 5 things may be rearranged in perspective, but the problems are not different. The complexities of those problems are totally different. Homeless kids 40 years ago meant something very different than it means today. As you well know. Children who are dealing with remarkable issues in their lives, the likes of which I don't believe have been seen before, because of the complexities of what's in their lives. But devolution has been going on forever. Yikes. Can y'all hear me if I turn this off? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Talk loudly when it's your turn. I always do. There you go. So today we were all in a different meeting, and most of us, except for Rita, and we were talking at the beginning of that meeting about the fact that there have never been enough government resources to cover people's needs. It doesn't matter how far back you go or how far forward you go. It's not going to be the solution. So I think we have to get a lot more creative about where we are and how we fund things. There haven't been enough resources since the industrial age, except for Rita can argue with me already, with my pen. That seems so wrong. Give me my pen back. It's a very divisive issue, and we have to do what we can, in my opinion, to bring together the few ideas that we agree on and construct up from there. It's not useful for me to keep arguing about things that aren't going to change. But that's where I am in my life at my age. So, and I believe life keeps going on for all the people who need help in this community, in the communities where you might be from, in the communities where people live who you love. And it keeps going on while Congress toils or does whatever it is they do. And the president as well. When you look at the war on poverty, and since the war on poverty was declared, it doesn't matter who's in the White House, and it doesn't matter the dominant party in Congress. Still, it's not working. And so if you look just quickly at a few programs, and I know all of these folks will get a lot more specific, but the Emergency Food and Shelter Program, which used to be called FEMA, but now is called Emergency Food and Shelter Program, it's been cut consistently over the last several years. Last year was cut by 50%. This year they haven't even announced what they think it might be, if it's going to be anything. The community service block grants have been cut by 50%. I'm sure Jackie will talk a lot about that. Energy assistance programs cut by 50%. What is completely cut out of this budget is the Corporation for National Service. That is not public television, for those who get confused. That is AmeriCorps. That is Youth Build. That is Teach for America. That is Foster Grandparents. That is RSVP. And that is the Senior Corps, along with other programs. It is not even in the budget. So those programs could well go away. Another program in the Corporation for National Service is the Teen Pregnancy Prevention Program. I don't know anyone in favor of teen pregnancy. Regardless of your point of view about life, I don't know anyone in favor of it. And I'll tell you right now, today, in this community, we have a 12-year-old who's pregnant. And what the public health nurse said to me is, oh, at least she'll be 13 when she delivers. I thought, like, that's good news? That's not good news. No one is in favor. That girl is a girl. She's not a woman. If you Google government cutbacks, which has become today's world, yesterday I was speaking to somebody and their printer didn't work, and I said, too bad you don't have a mimeograph machine. And he looked at me like, what is that? And I said, never mind. I said, really, you don't know what a mimeograph machine is? And he said, no, how do you spell it? I'll Google it. I thought, of course you will. So I Googled government cutbacks in social services. 158 million hits. 158 million hits in 2 seconds, right? And the top stories that came with that, so this is not a unique problem in this community or anywhere else in this country. The top stories came from the U.S., Great Britain, Australia, France, Greece, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Pennsylvania, California, and Maine. So I personally am tired of banging my head against the wall, and I want to be able to work on things that we agree on to create different change. Philanthropy cannot make up this difference. It's just not possible. All the philanthropy in the U.S. is equal to less than 1 cent of taxing authority. So Jackie's and my solution is to give us taxing authority. Yes, you want to be part of that? Yeah, I figure they're all in. And I think the efforts to marginalize, our taxing system is set up intentionally to marginalize education against health care, against human services, against services for people with disabilities, against drug and alcohol programs, against violence against women and children. And we have to stop playing their game. Now, how we do that, I'm not sure. I'll count on people a lot smarter than me. And this year, for the first time in the history of this country, we will have to change our language because minority births will be the majority. And so the world is different. We can stop talking about it's going to change. This is the year. This year is the year that babies born into minority families will be the majority population. So we are here. And that's the end of my rambling. I don't remember who's following me.
I had just proposed that we would go alphabetically by agency. I didn't have any better idea than that.
I think that puts Jackie next.
Are you all okay with that? I'm open to any other arrangements you can come up with.
I'm used to going